Hi, I'm Mark.
And I'm Scott, and this is Church is Lame, the podcast where we fix the church by revealing where it's broken. Mark, what's lame in the church this week?
Oh, there's all manner of lameness. There's all
Isn't there
manner of
always?
lameness.
Yep.
But specifically, I'd like to take a look at this article, which it begins honestly enough, right? So the first sentence is, over the last couple of months, various influential voices have presented as news the RFID chip used in Sweden as the way that the mark of the beast of Revelation 13 will be coming. And you know what? Certainly, that really sounds very good. It's a strong start. There are people out there who are really deeply concerned that, the Antichrist is everywhere. And anytime I open the door, the Antichrist is there. Anything that, everything is the mark of the beast. I mean, I remember hearing a story at some point talking about when Social Security Administration had just started.
Yeah.
That there were these fundamentalist Christians freaking out over Social Security cards.
Right.
Because without a Social Security card, you couldn't buy or sell anything, right? Which,
Right.
Ended up being half true.
Yeah.
But, but the Antichrist never showed up. And so, there was no problem there.
Yeah.
And so I like how it starts. Of course, the second sentence, I would like to reinforce that. The second sentence. These news stories are misleading, a red herring and a decoy to steer our focus away from the real mark of the beast.
Quote unquote real.
The long-planned microneedle patch vaccine and its scannable quantum dot tattoo mark that will furnish the proof of vaccination compliance record on the body. Because somehow a record of your vaccination for a pandemic is somehow the mark of the beast.
The smallest mark of the beast ever. So let me just say this really quick. Or maybe not so quick. And you, by all means, please, if I say anything out of turn, just jump in and stop me right away. Let's go back to the Old Testament, and let's go back to the story of the Passover, right? We're gonna take blood and we're gonna mark the door jamb, right? And this is gonna be an outward sign that's obvious to everybody, good, bad, or otherwise, that you are sealed, you are God's, right? And so this idea of marking it's got to be, in my mind, marking has to be outward and identifiable, right? So this idea that somebody could unwittingly be duped into changing their allegiance through a vaccination shot that has a luminescing something, chemical or something in there, that they could take the mark without having proclaimed any sort of allegiance. It just defies
it's
any sort of, it defies, forget about theology or doctrine. It just defies logic. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. And the article, I mean, it doesn't take long. It's a very short article, but the fifth paragraph, it makes this statement is that even in the quote unquote more severely restricted countries, that, if you're unvaccinated, you can still, use your money and property and buy and sell and whatnot. So this thing goes from saying that this thing is the mark of the beast, which, if you bother reading Revelation at all, specifically, they quote Revelation 14, 9-12 in their article. I think it's the last paragraph. And it says, a third angel followed them and said in a loud voice, if anyone worships the beast and his image and receives his mark on the forehead and the hand, yada, yada, yada.
Right.
So, I mean, this article, this poor author just completely trips up and says, so the thing I'm complaining about is actually happening. Yeah, it's not actually happening. And of course, the thing I'm complaining about is, fundamentally tied into this swearing an oath of allegiance, which, hasn't happened. And you're I don't even know what words I want to use. It's just, you're not exegeting well, I guess, if I want to say it that way. Right.
Right.
But it's just, you're not even following a basic logic. Like, is the thing that you're saying happening? And then you say, yes, it is. And no, it's not. And that's really deeply frustrating. And it kind of paints to me a real desperation to see, a demon under every bed and the Antichrist around every corner to make a specific worldview more real.
Yeah.
That there's just not enough. I mean, maybe I'm out of line saying that, but it just seems like what's trying to happen is that, like, there's a cognitive dissonance that says, okay, we live in a world that looks like this, but I am utterly convinced that, the Armageddon is like just right about to happen. Like, it's going to happen, right now. Of course, there's been Christians since the days of Paul,
Of course,
who thought that,
Yeah.
and so there's an issue there. I don't know. What do you think?
So let's give the author here the benefit of the doubt for a second, even though I don't, not really.
Okay.
But for the moment, let's give him the benefit of the doubt. And let's say, like, really the kind of the heart of this message is we need to be looking at the world through spiritual eyes, right? And so when the author is looking at the world through spiritual eyes, he sees evil everywhere. That's what he sees. He sees Satan, and he sees danger, and he sees the downfall of his normal.
Yeah.
Or of his aesthetic, I want to say. Like, this is the way I think the world should be, and it's changing, and I can't take that. So when I see the world, I see nothing but bad. And I don't think that's how Jesus saw the world as he walked through it, because it seemed like he enjoyed the people he was with. It seemed like he was intent on blessing people he was with. It seemed like he was interested on bringing kingdom ideals into the reality he was in. And then I don't think it should be the filter that we see the world through as Christ ones, right? Christians, Christ ones, the ones who follow Christ, right? So if we're to take from that example, I don't see the filter. I don't filter the world and see nothing but evil. I certainly see evil. By all means, I see evil. But I myself cannot deal with all the evils of the world. I roll through the world, and I have this sphere of influence, person to person, community to community. And so where I see evil, instead of wanting to rage at evil, which I can't, like, that's one option. It's just to rage in every single direction.
Which is, I mean, I get that instinct. That's kind of my instinct, right?
Sure, and it's not an instinct that's unknown to Jesus. For instance,
the turning of the tables.
He's in the temples and he's just raging, and he's like, look at that woman who's giving her last few pennies to these people who have more than enough money. Like, how do you build your churches off the back of these poor people? And then he goes back to raging again in a big way. But I think more than raging, I think the ultimate goal is to reconcile things. Like, so when we see people who are hurting, we try to reconcile that. When we see people who are hungry, we try to reconcile that. And when we see evil in the world, we don't just rage, but we try to reconcile that, right? If we see evil, then we try to overcome it with good. When we see poverty, we try to overcome it with charity. When we see injustice, we try to overcome it with not just justice, but with kingdom.
Right.
Right? Because I agree with people who like, justice doesn't always mean equity or equality. Justice is something, the opposite of injustice is more than that, right?
The definition is complex, and it's difficult to bring it down into just a simple sentence because, when we look at how the Bible portrays justice, it's, the Old Testament, the Torah is fundamentally a wisdom text.
Yeah.
Citing my source, go see The Lost World of Torah by Dr. John Walton.
Yeah.
And that is not, it's meant to give you an idea of how justice is done without ever giving a beautiful, lovely, well-composed sentence that says, this is what justice is.
Right.
In the same way, like the Apostle Paul, when he talks about love is patient, love is kind, love is yada, yada, yada.
Right.
He isn't saying this is the definition of love. He's saying these are the qualities of love, and those qualities may be exhaustive and they may not be exhaustive. But it's painting a picture.
Right.
And, and this article paints a picture. It's quite lovely.
Right. Lovely. Yeah. So when I think about lovely, what I don't think about is fear mongering.
No.
And when I think about fear mongering, what immediately becomes obvious to me is that people who think of themselves as shepherds don't really think of the people they're speaking to as sheep. What they think of them as are opportunities. You know what I mean? What they think of them as, better yet, is pawns. Like, I've got this army of pawns who read my article, who watch my podcast, who read my blog, who are subscribed to my YouTube channel. And depending on how I feed them, I can get them to respond and react and do certain things in a certain way to paint a picture of, once again, us versus them, right? I can create an image of what it means to be us, and I can put people in the box and out of the box for my own satisfaction.
Yeah, and I don't want to read into this article to say, okay, this is the author's motivation, and this is how the author sees the world. But unfortunately, it's difficult not to make certain assumptions. This is written with a mind to try to help people, right? Yeah. It's trying to say, hey, look, the mark of the beast is this. You better be careful. Yeah, it's wackadoo, far out there. Conspiracy thinking of the most religious kind. And for somebody like, people like you and me, where we both go to covenant churches, right? This is just madness. But this person is reacting, I think, logically to what they believe to be true. And I don't think that this person is trying to deceive anybody, but they do want to try to help people see the world the right way, whatever that right way is for them. And part of that, unfortunately, involves just seeing the world as fundamentally corrupt. And as you pointed out, Jesus, he didn't see the world with this singular, lens. He had, he saw the world through the face of a diamond, right? He had all these different facets and aspects. They played with each other. They interacted. So, he reacts to the material reality in front of him. And that's how, I think we think of materialist, ideas, right? It's just the stuff in front of us. But to see the world through spiritual eyes is to see the world as it is. Not as we think it is, not as we think it should be, not as we, think it should not be, but to see it for what it actually is. So when Jesus says to the apostles, when he first sends them out and says, okay, look, go to the lost sheep of Israel. And if they receive you, great. If they don't, shake the dust off your feet when you leave the town.
Yeah. Which
is thankfully a metaphor which is easily understandable today,
right?
To modern readers. But then, when you had prostitutes and tax collectors and whoever else coming to him, he's like, yeah, come here. It's great.
Yeah.
So the world wasn't the problem. Individuals were treated, on their own merits. communities were treated on that community's merit. It wasn't just this assumption.
Yeah.
And, this worldview that anticipates, the end to happen, it's just tomorrow, more or less.
Mm-hmm.
It's assuming the world has become so wicked it's beyond redemption.
Right.
Because this kind of writing isn't going to sell any person who's not a Christian on Christianity
Right.
whatsoever. And I don't think the author has any belief whatsoever that this is going to be, an evangelistic article that they wrote.
Sure.
But unfortunately, for most of these people, the way they evangelize begins with, okay, well, you suck, and God doesn't like that you suck, and so please stop sucking. It's
Right.
not about, hey, God knows who you are, just love him, all right?
Yeah.
It's like there are different versions of the gospel, and the people that are in this vein of Christianity tend to take a very aggressive, sin is this horrible, horrible thing. I think even to the point, and I apologize for monopolizing the time here,
Yeah.
but one of the things I think that it just really needs to stop is the belief that we're not free from sin.
Right.
Because
Absolutely.
that's how this kind of treats it. It's like, look, if Christ died, Christus Victor, right? He defeated sin and death on the cross.
Right.
That's not a recent idea.
Right.
It's like you need to see the world through the lens that Christ defeated sin, and I guess to a point, people are opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
But they should be much more than that too.
Yeah.
But if you can put down this so binary view that of good and evil in the world, it's like, no. It's like, put it away, see the good that is there, and when there is no good there, see that.